Made famous during the invasion of Naboo, the Lucrehulk-Class Battleship was one of the most imposing ships in the Separatist Navy. These modified cargo haulers were some of the largest ships to take part in the space battles of the Clone Wars. And today we're going to take a look at their design, their history, and how they were used by the Confederacy of Independent Systems. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. So in the movies, we see two variants of the Lucrehulk. The Lucrehulk-Class Battleship and the Lucrehulk-Class Droid Control Ship. Now structurally, these ships are almost identical. After all, both are derived from the Lucrehulk-Class Cargo Ship. However, they fill very different roles. While both can fill the role of a troop transport and a carrier, the Droid Control Ship is specified to function as a command vessel, finding itself right at home commanding Separatist fleets, and being the nerve center of any ground invasion. And they were crucial to the OOM series battle droids, all of which required a central computer to function. And as we all know, that flaw led to the Trade Federation's defeat at the Battle of Naboo. At 3 kilometers in diameter, these ships were massive, dwarfing even the Imperial-class Star Destroyer, which obviously at this time had yet to be designed. And they were armed to the teeth. They were armed with 42 quad turbolaser turrets, another 51 single turbolaser batteries, 520 assault lasers, a point defense network made up of 185 dedicated laser cannons, as well as 400 twin laser turrets dedicated to taking down starfighters. And looking at the Lucrehulk's ability to transport war materials, it's a remarkably capable vessel. Capable of carrying 50 C-9979 landing craft, one of these ships could basically single-handedly carry out a planetary invasion. And those could be supported by over 1,500 Vulture droids, easily the largest fighter capacity of any vessel used during the Clone Wars. As for ground vehicles, it could carry over 500 MMTs and 6,000 AATs. So, as I mentioned earlier, they were originally built as cargo ships for the Trade Federation. However, in the Outer Rim, the Trade Federation was dealing with things like piracy. Needing to defend their ships, they started arming these vessels with defensive weapons. And those defensive weapons slowly became more and more offensive. Eventually, this led all the way to the Trade Federation secretly arming these vessels to the teeth. And this armament would become public knowledge when these vessels were used to invade the planet of Naboo. Not only were they able to carry out a remarkably effective blockade, but they took part in supporting a swift and effective planetary invasion, which succeeded in taking control of Naboo with little to no resistance relatively quickly. Unfortunately for the Trade Federation, though, most of the battle droids used during that invasion were OOM series. So when local resistance forces were able to destroy the droid control ship, most of these battle droids became basically useless. Following the Trade Federation's defeat at the Battle of Naboo, with their heavily armed navy now public knowledge, they faced condemnation and sanctions from the government of the Republic, which mandated that they dismantle their military fleet. Now, the way they got around this was separating the core of the Lucrehulk into a separate vessel. This would allow them to effectively pretend that they're two separate spacecraft, while functionally they could simply be snapped back together if the need arises. However, the Trade Federation's shady dealings weren't over yet, because as the Separatist crisis took root in the Outer Rim, and the Confederacy of Independent Systems became a greater threat to the Republic, the Trade Federation took interest in the burgeoning factions along the fringes of the galaxy, and a good portion of the Trade Federation fleet was pledged to the Confederacy of Independent Systems. In fact, a lot of these Lucrehulks were present during the Battle of Geonosis at the start of the Clone Wars. One of the main objectives of the Republic assault on that day was to attempt to disable as many of these core ships that were attempting to leave the system. With much of the Trade Federation fleet now pledged to the Separatist cause, the Lucrehulk-Class Battleship became a fairly common sight in Separatist fleets. Often used as capital ships or flagships, and in many cases also as carriers, these ships proved brutally effective in things like the blockade of Ryloth. We know that several of these were present at the Battle of Coruscant, and that many of these did survive the war. However, as we see at the opening of Jedi Fallen Order, they probably didn't survive much longer than that. Most of them were commandeered by the New Galactic Empire, and would find themselves scrapped within a few years. It's stated that 5 years after the end of the Clone Wars, Separatist ships are a relatively rare sight at the scrapyards, which makes me assume that they have already been scrapped. However, we do know of one Lucrehulk that remained in service. We know that during the Galactic Civil War, a Lucrehulk that was commandeered by the Rebel Alliance was used as a mobile academy to train new pilots. This academy was simply known as Lucrehulk Prime, and was commanded by General Hera Syndulla. But at the height of its fame during the Clone Wars, the Lucrehulk-Class Battleship was a truly imposing sight on the battlefield, often commanding many other Separatist ships. If you want to learn more about what happened to some of those ships after the end of the Clone Wars, I'll leave a link up here to my video on what happened to the Separatist Navy after the end of the war. And I want you to let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the Lucrehulk's viability as a warship. Obviously, it ended up being remarkably effective due to its massive size, but ultimately, do you think the cost of converting them was worth it? And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.